This is a 2004 Mercedes-Benz C230 compressor, and it may just be the most underrated C-Class of its era. Now, Mercedes-Benz, even to this day, has not come out with what the C and C-Class or the E and E-Class stands for. But it was apparent when they made this model that they set out to make it the most appealing yet affordable Mercedes-Benz C-Class. The C could mean compact, as you can tell this car does not have a very large footprint, or it could also mean comfort, as I'll take you through the interior later in this video. But with this generation of C-Class, Mercedes-Benz also set out to give them a sporty kind of feel by giving them either a manual or an automatic transmission and a wide variety of engines to choose from. Now, you could get your 2004 C-Class in either a wagon, a coupe, or a sedan, with the coupes and sedans having the ability to be equipped with a sport package. Now, the wagons were centered around having a lot of cargo space, and although the coupes were a little bit faster than the sedans, they only had 2 doors, which is why the sport sedan may have just been the best bang for your buck. And today, I'm going to show you why. Now, I've borrowed this C230 from myself, and like I mentioned, the C-Class sedan came equipped with the sport package, and you could either get it in the form of the C320, which had a V6 engine that put out 215 horsepower, or this C230. Now, the sport package Mercedes-Benz put on these cars was not a game changer, but it did offer some pretty nice features, like this nice sport badge on the trim, or these 17-inch alloy wheels, and many other features. But with the C230 came the name Kompressor. Now, compressor in German means supercharger, and this car came with one to go along with a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder engine that gave it 189 horsepower and 192 feet-pound of torque, giving it some sneaky speed. Now, although this car didn't have the quickness the C-Class coupes did, or the cargo space the C-Class wagons did, it made up for it in other areas with decent gas mileage of 27 miles per gallon on the highway and a decent MSRP of just under 30 grand, which leads me to believe that the C230 was the best value C-Class Mercedes made in the early 2000s. And today, I'm going to review it. First, I'm going to take you on a tour of the C230, showing you all of its interesting quirks and features. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and take it for a drive, and then I'm going to give it an Alux score. Starting on the exterior, if you see a C-Class sedan on the road and you want to know if it has a sport package, you could just look right here on the exterior trim on both sides of the car and see this nice subtle little sport badge. If you choose to get the sport package on your 2004 C-Class Mercedes, you'll also get a couple other interesting exterior features, including this chrome-plated exhaust tip that just barely squeaks out from underneath the bumper, like it's saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm an exhaust and I'm chrome." You don't see that every day. Now, you'll also get these nice 17-inch alloy wheels, and if you ask me, it's worth getting the sport package alone, especially when you consider the other kinds of wheels that Mercedes-Benz put on their early 2000 C-Class models. I'll put some pictures up on the screen for you guys. They were just plain ugly, and although these wheels are not spectacular and flashy by any means, I do think they give the exterior of this car a nice look. Now, Mercedes also gave you these nice double piston calipers to go on your front tires, but instead of painting them red like almost every sport car in America, the Germans of Mercedes decided to just simply put the word Mercedes-Benz on there. A nice look, but if you don't regularly wash this car, I can see this getting kind of dirty and gross. Along with that, Mercedes also gave you their multi-link suspension kit, otherwise known as the electronic stability program, and they gave you staggered tires in the back and fronts, with the backs being just a little bit more wider to give you a little bit more grip. Now, just looking at the exterior as a whole, the C230 really does not look like a car from the year 2004. Its design is not that dated, and if you ask me, it shows hints of modern C-Class Mercedes-Benz vehicles. It won't turn heads, but it is a good-looking sedan. The chrome finish on the exhaust tip and the grille, as well as these dual lamp headlights that remind me of bug eyes in a way, but I'm still a fan of, and even the patented Mercedes-Benz star that's extruding from the hood, resembling its C-Class ancestors, give the C230 a good exterior luxury design that would make any car owner proud to drive. One more thing I want to mention about the exterior of the C230 is its paint color. If you follow the Mercedes-Benz brand, you would know that many of its early generation models came in either a white, a black, or a red paint job, but not this C230, however. This color was called granite gray, and although it looks more blue than it does gray, nonetheless, it was a $670 option that made it stand out from other Mercedes-Benz C-classes. Now, moving into the interior, I want to start with the back seat area, and as you'll see, it's not the most spacious back seat you'll ever see. I do have decent headroom, decent leg room. However, Mercedes was nice enough to give you these knee cutouts in the seat in front of you. Just a little bit more room. Now, what the C230 was lacking in leg room in its back seat, it was also lacking in accessories. You did not get very much in the back seat of your C230. You got a couple pouches on both of your front seats. You got a couple air vents to give you some air conditioning or some heat back here. You also got this thing that pulls out from the center console, which I guess could be a ashtray, and of course, the center armrest. One thing I want to mention about the center armrest, though, is when you pull it down, it seems to be just an ordinary armrest, and you go, geez, Mercedes, you couldn't even give the poor people in the back seat cup holders? But then you notice this little plastic cutout, and it has a little springy touch to it. You press it, and bam, cup holders. Thank you, Mercedes. Now, another note about the back seat of the C230 is it did include a middle seat, and although I can't imagine it was very comfortable because of this hump that's in your feet space, which I don't really blame Mercedes for. They had to put the drivetrain somewhere in this car. However, they did take the time to label the word center on the seatbelt receptor. Spring-loaded cup holders and a labeled center seatbelt receptor. The rear passengers sure had it all on the back of the C230. No, I'm just kidding. I actually don't mind the lack of accessories in the back seat area, as it probably played a crucial role in keeping the C230 at an affordable price point. Now, moving into the front seat, the first thing you'll notice is the quality of materials. Mercedes-Benz prided themselves on making good-looking interiors, and even back in the year 2004, they succeeded at that. You'll find no cheap plastics or upholstery anywhere, and the look is not ugly or bland whatsoever. Mercedes-Benz does a nice job of giving the C230 compressor a sporty and luxurious feel by giving you these nice stitched floor mats that say Mercedes-Benz on them, as well as this nice door frame trim. Going back to the shifter, however, you'll notice that it has this nice simple design, and it also has the ability to give the driver a manual transmission mode. And you'll also notice this button that has the letter C and the letter S on it, and you'll think, wow, this car has a sport mode, sweet. Well, not so fast. After doing some studying in the owner's manual, I learned that the S actually stands for standard mode, and the C actually stands for winter or wet mode. And the only thing it really does is, in standard mode, your C230 will start out in first gear, and when you have your C230 in winter mode, it will start out in second gear, making you less at risk to spin your tires on some wet surfaces. It was nice of Mercedes to include this feature, but I just wish they would have gave us one singular button with a raindrop or a snowflake to signify this winter mode, instead of giving you this button that screams, hey, I got a sport mode. The next quirk of the interior I want to show you just happens to be below your shifter, and it's the sliding door that when you slide it backwards, you'll notice a couple goodies in there, one being your standard power outlet or cigarette lighter, as well as these slots that you can put loose change in. But what I'm most excited about is this little contraption here that has a silver button that says open. One thing you might notice about the interior of the C230 is that it doesn't have any cup holders. Well, look no further. Press this silver open button and watch the magic happen as this plastic contraption pops open, and voila, a cup holder, and a cup holder that can accompany multiple size cups as well. And where that plastic contraption, the space that it was occupying, it can also hold a cup. So spring-loaded cup holders in the rear and a magical plastic contraption cup holder in the front. I'll tell you what, whoever was in charge of the cup holder department at Mercedes-Benz in the early 2000s really should get a bonus. Next up, I want to direct your attention to the center climate and radio controls. The climate controls are pretty straightforward, although they do have automatic climate control and dual climate zones, which I bet you didn't think was technology that was around in the year 2004. As for the radio, this is the one part of the interior that I am really not a fan of. It's kind of ugly, to be honest with you, On the right, you have this keypad that looks like it's been stolen from a house phone. And on the left, you have this one singular volume knob. There's no knobs for tuning. If you want to tune, you're going to have to press these arrows beside it. And when you turn that volume knob, on the ugly orange display that's in the center here, you have no way of knowing how loud or how quiet you're turning your stereo. It doesn't display any units or numbers or anything, so you're really just left guessing. Below your radio, you have this storage compartment, which is obviously put there in case you want to install your own double DIN radio in your C230 compressor. But instead, Mercedes-Benz gives you a single DIN radio. And to be honest, I don't know if this is an option in this car to have a double DIN radio, but I honestly would have just rather paid Mercedes-Benz a few $100s to have them put a double DIN radio in here standard, instead of giving me this giant hole in my interior. One cool feature about the radio, however, is it does have a 6 CD disc changer, which can be located in the glove compartment, and it also has the ability to play cassette tapes. Well, Alex, if the disc changer is located in the glove box, where do you put in your cassette tapes? Well, press this little button that says EJ on it and watch more magic happen in your C230 as this little screen flips down and voila, a opening to put your cassette tapes in. Innovative? I think yes. Moving along to your glove compartment, where you'll be greeted by your 6 CD disc changer, which unfortunately was a $400 option. And this little flap, which I guess you could store cards in, and also these plastic claws. I'll take a pen and push them in, and voila! You have a pen holder in your Mercedes-Benz C230 compressor. Is there anything Mercedes-Benz didn't think of? Next up in the C230 compressor interior, I want to talk about this row of buttons. The first one being, however, your heated seat control, which unfortunately was an option in this car you had to pay extra for. And next to that is a blank. Now, I'm not sure if that's an option this car didn't come equipped with, but it would have been a nice spot to put that winter mode control I mentioned earlier. Wink, wink. Now, the next button we have is a rectangle with some lines and an arrow on it. Well, press that and a rear power sunshade appears in the back of your Mercedes-Benz C230 compressor. Now, one thing you might know about having a leather interior is that when the car sits in hot weather, the seats get even hotter. So it was nice of Mercedes-Benz to think of this and give you some protection. The next button we have is a button that says ESP off, which controls the electronic stability program in your Sport Package C-Class model, as well as your hazard light control, your lock-unlock button for your doors, as well as a button with an arrow pointed at a headrest. Press this, and you hear a loud thump. This button actually collapses your rear headrest to give you more clearance to look out your rear windshield. A good feature if, in case you have rear passengers that forget to collapse them themselves, you can just press this simple button, and voila, you don't have to get out and climb in the back seat and finick with headrest. Next to that, you have a button that controls the anti-theft feature of your C230, as well as your passenger heated seat control. The next quirk of the C230 interior I want to talk about is this instrument cluster located to the left of your steering wheel. It houses your power mirror controls, which is a nice feature to have for a 2004 vehicle. And it also has your headlight controls. It's pretty standard. Turn to the right a couple times for the auto function and the high beam control. And you can also pull this knob out a couple notches for the fog light control. Pull it out one time for your front fog lights and pull it out one more time and you have a rear fog light control. Pretty cool. Next up, I want to talk real briefly about the gauge cluster in this car. It's not the most appealing, but Mercedes would eventually update its appearance in the 2005 model year. You have your standard fuel gauge that has fractions instead of the letters E and F. You also have a tachometer on your left that goes up by tens instead of 1, 2, and 3, and a giant speedometer in the middle that goes up to 160. You get a tiny screen in the middle that has that same orange glow as your radio, which I absolutely just hate, but it does have some pretty nice quirks in there, as well as a coolant temperature reading, a speed out reading, and a oil level reading. Yes, you don't have a dipstick in your C230 compressor. Instead, if you want to know how much oil is in the engine, you have to rely on its computer. Interesting. The last feature about the C230 compressor interior I want to talk about is the sunroof package. Yes, package. This C230 compressor came with the sunroof package, which not only gave you a nice size sunroof, but you also got auto-dimming rear view and side view mirrors, as well as a rain sensor which detected how much rainfall was around your car and would tell the wipers how vigorous or how slow to wipe away the rain. And you also got that rear sunshade that I mentioned earlier in this video. As for the sunroof itself, its controls are quite simple, but first you have the option to cover up the sunroof completely. Now, this is pretty standard to have on most cars that have sunroofs, but I like it because it goes along with the theme of Mercedes-Benz being conscious of how hot these leather seats can get in the summertime. As for the switch that powers the sunroof, simply pull it backward to open and push it forward to close, and you can also pull it downward slightly to crack it, which is a nice quirk to have if you want to just have a little bit of air circulation without having to open all your windows. And so those are the quirks and features of the 2004 Mercedes-Benz C230 compressor. Now it's time to get it out on the road and see how it drives. Alright, driving the C230. Of course, it's raining in Michigan today, so I apologize if you hear any wiper sounds or whatever, but first thing you're going to notice about this car when you get into it is just how low to the ground it is. And some people might not like that, which is fine, but this is what Mercedes' image of a sports car was back in the day. And to be honest with you, you really don't mind it. And like, it doesn't feel like you're in a terribly small car. It's great at cruising. This car was a good package. I mean, it had a decent amount of features like I showed you. It's got a very capable engine in it. It's not terribly fast. What I love about it is the supercharger. So I mean, it's not your ordinary everyday four-cylinder car. I'll tell you that much. This is a fun automobile. It does have the sport package after all. This is a sports car. This car is really good in the corners. I mean, body roll is there, but it's not terrible. The braking is really crisp. The steering, I love the steering because, you know, some cars today you get in them and you steer and it doesn't feel like you're even touching the wheel. Like the power steering is so overpowered that, you know, there's no really fun in driving because the car is doing all the work for you. In this car, like like the steering, it's really responsive, it's really tight, and it's got that Mercedes-Benz sport car feel to it. So when you merge onto the highway here and you get up to about 3,500 RPMs and you hear that whine and you're like, oh yeah, there's a compressor in this car. This car's a compressor. This has a supercharger. And you know, this car, it's a very capable car. It's not terribly fast. I'm sorry if I overhyped it earlier, but this is not a terribly fast car, but it gets the job done. The cabin, I should say, not the most quiet. For 2004, gotta imagine the technology wasn't there as far as noise dampening in interiors of cars. There's a lot of tire noise in this car, which is fine. I mean, for me personally, I'm gonna have music on anyway, so that's okay. But it makes up for it by, like, it's just such a good cruiser. I mean, I'm going 50 miles an hour, but it doesn't really feel like it. I'm low to the ground, which makes me like, it feels like I'm driving a car, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like I'm going extremely fast, and it's pretty comfortable in here. Like, the value of this car used is just immense. I mean, sure, you could go out and buy a new E-Class at the dealership, drop $65,000, $70,000 on it. This car was only 30 grand new before options. I believe the sticker on this one was 34 grand. It's got the sunroof package. It's got that special paint and seat warmers. But, you know, you could probably get one of these on the used car market for about 5-6 grand. And, you know, if you get one that's in good shape and doesn't have a bunch of miles, you have yourself a good automobile. And that's the 2004 Mercedes-Benz C230 compressor. This car was one of the best C-Classes you could get back in its era. Sure, it didn't have the quickness of the C-Class coupe, but it made up for it by having a little bit more room and practicality. Sure, it didn't have the cargo space of the C-Class wagon, but it made up for it by being a little bit more quicker. Sure, it didn't have the features of the E-Class of its era, but it made up for it by having a much more reasonable sticker price, which leads me to believe that this C-Class was one of the best value C-Classes you could get. And now it's time to give it an Alux score.
Starting with the weekend category and styling, the C230 has a great design and doesn't show its age at all, giving it a 6 out of 10. Acceleration is nothing too crazy, after all it only has a 1.8 liter engine and it gets a 4 out of 10. Handling is good, the steering feels very firm and responsive, giving it a 6 out of 10. Fun factor is decent, this isn't an exotic car by any means and there are many Mercedes-Benz cars that blow this one away, but the C230 still has its perks and is not your mom's minivan, giving it a 5 out of 10. Cool factor is okay, not many people are going to recognize this car on the road and it gets a 4 out of 10 for a total weekend score of 25 out of 50. Next up are the daily categories and features. The C230 has a lot of features you wouldn't expect it to have and it is well equipped for its price tag, giving it a 7 out of 10. Comfort is okay, nothing over the top, and the seats are a little on the stiff side, giving it a 5 out of 10. Quality is a strong point of any Mercedes-Benz vehicle and the C230 is no exception, giving it a 7 out of 10. Practicality is also a strong suit with this car. Back seat, decent trunk space, good gas mileage, and a capable engine give it a 6 out of 10. Value is the theme of this video, and this car has it. If you happen to find one of these in a used car lot, you should take the time to look at it, giving it a 7 out of 10 for a total daily score of 32 out of 50. And the Alux score is 57 out of 100.